Hello everyone, this is Daniel and welcome back to another part in this series. So today I quickly want to look at this thing on the helmet that's a little bit like an eye by itself, and we're actually going to reuse some parts of our eye shader, so let's look into that a little bit. So just for the setup, what I did here is I went into edit mode, I selected this area and I created a new material slot and I just assigned this to it. It's just a simple name here. So that's done, but we need to do one more thing. Still in edit mode, select this area and just go and unwrap it so that this is basically just in the center, spread nicely all throughout well, your UV plane. So I do want to make sure that this is sort of the right way up. So I'm just going to quickly select some. Okay, so this side is going to be up. I'll remember that. I'm just going to twist it until this is up there. And actually, I don't like very much how it's not quite round. So instead, we could also try to look at it straight on and use the view. So here I'm making sure that this is straight. Now I just move my mouse upwards to keep that angle, and now I should be almost perfectly on the front. And now I can project from view with bounds. This is now a little bit nicer of a sphere, so I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. So that's going to be the UV setup that we need for this part. Now for the shader, we have already done the eyes, and we're going to use a very similar setup. So I want to start by copying the entire thing here. Let's just bring that over to our new shader. So I'll paste that here, and we're just going to see what that turns out to be. So how nice is that? We have now an eye on, on the helmet. We won't be needing any transparent parts this time, so we can remove this setup here. That looks even worse. That's actually hilarious. So there we go, we don't need this anymore, and accordingly I think this is the eye shape, so we don't need, well, we'll keep it for the setup for a moment, but it's pretty much, that's it. And now, just because this is just too fun not to do, let's try to make the eye centered in this. There we go. Now we have a huge eye on top. Alright, I think we've fooled around enough here. I'm noticing one thing though. I have to check the UVs very quickly. The feeling that should be alright. There we go. So what I noticed is that it's kind of rotating in weird ways, and we're using the object rotation. So we need to apply the object rotation for this to work properly. So I'm going to press Ctrl A and apply the rotation. And this makes it so that it's now all straight again. We have one more issue, which is the alignment. You can still see that the correct projection is still from the front and not from the normal. That is something that I still have to fix, but as soon as I have the solution for that, I'll let you know. For now, we just want to go in and sort of do the procedural thing, and I think we won't be needing this upper part at all, so let's just delete that. So basically we'll start once again up here. We need to set sort of a background color, and I'll choose my background color from here. It's just going to be a basic color tone that sort of feels right. We'll probably overwrite all of this, so it's nothing too important, just to establish sort of the base. Then next, let's see. I do like the idea of a gradient from top to down, and we do have something like that here already. And it should be this one, not the gradient shadow, actually right here. Gradient that goes through that, and we only apply it within the eye. So where is it masked? Let's see. Oh, it is already the eye itself. So basically, I'm just going to copy this setup here and create some new sort of transformation that we'll use here. And here I'll be able to just change the scale of it to be larger. Actually, a better approach maybe will be to just change the threshold here. So let's do that. And that should just grow the eye to sort of fill the entire space. Well, in this case, we really wouldn't have needed that if you think about it, but yeah, that's actually a good thought. Maybe we should just take this gradient and fill it with that instead. So this is going to be filled with a gradient as a background, and let's just bring it up again a little bit so that it doesn't get in the way. And now let's change the colors very quickly. So in the darkest areas we will need a nice dark tone, and in the brighter ones it's almost going to be white. Now we just need to fix the middle to have a nice color, and that looks alright. Now we just basically adjust the transformation of that gradient again here, the scale, then the position. Let's just make sure that that's nice and centered. And it should be alright for now. It's really hard to ignore the eye. Well, now that we have a border, actually, let's reuse that maybe. So I believe our border is this one here, and all we need to do is move these thresholds further out until we sort of fill it in nicely. But of course for this we won't need the offset, since that's going to stick to the outline more or less. It's probably best if we look from the front view for now, since that's going to give us the least distortion as a preview. Let's see what's next. We could also rotate our gradient a little bit. Not this one up here, to just align it a bit nicer. This looks a bit better. And alright, next we will do basically yet another eye. And so here we have a gradient, and that is, what is this one? So that's just the mask for it basically. And then the dark area is simply that shader down there. So I'm just going to skip some of these modules for now. Let's just go directly from here to there. And this is the shadows. So we can keep that for now, I believe. I hope that this setup is actually correct on the eyes. This didn't seem it didn't seem too correct at the moment, so I'll have to check on the eyes again later if that was fine. So alright, now we're just using these modules here. We can ignore everything on the bottom for now. That makes things a little bit easier. So then, for the size here, let's go ahead and make it a little bit larger, something like this maybe. And next, let's edit our gradient. We're still going to use a gradient here, so it's nice that we have one. But this time we'll need some darker colors, such as the one here in the center, then the one in the middle around here, and then the bottom, the brighter area around here. So once again, the gradient is kind of very short, so it's a good idea to go in here to make it a bit softer. So it's just really playing around with the parameters a little bit until you find a good spot. We can also see if we can make this any softer with one of these settings. This one in particular gives us a very nice and soft result, so I might use this instead. And it's just about positioning it correctly. So that looks alright, well, apart from the sort of wrong positioning of the whole thing, but looks a little bit better now. For the outline, we also want to use here, let's just confirm if that's the outline. Yeah, okay. The only reason why this is now dark is the same reason to before, that it's going sort of, the shader is being applied on top of it, so we may want to put this one after here, which means that we go like this, and we don't need anything multiplied to here. And let's just take that off so that it doesn't confuse us, and we don't need this. That was very confusing, but yeah, it seemed to work out. So now the outline color is the same as what we have in the surrounding region. And right, next, I think I'm just going to get rid of most of the things here for a second, since we have most of the things that we need here, and the rest is just going to be some copying of what we already have established. So here are the coordinates for that. Are these the same? They're the same, so we can basically reuse that on top for here, and it should give the same results. Alright, now I'm going to implement yet another border, which means I'll copy this and once again just connect the usual connections. You can really think of these as modules, and I should have probably grouped them better, but I'm not very fluent with nodes, so I kind of build as and think as I go. So yeah, I'm just trying to do whatever comes to my mind here. Next we need to mix the colors once again. This is going to be another color that we just put on top here. Once again, we'll just use this as a factor and mix a new color in, and this will of course now go into that, so that's alright. And now we just need to edit the position, and it should go somewhere to where the eye is. Now we do want to copy sort of the same depth to here, so that it aligns nicely with that part. So this is just going to be sort of an outline for this inner part to give it a little bit more depth. For this I'm going to pick one of these very dark colors that we find in here. And again, as I said, the depth effects are currently a little bit broken because of the setup. I still have some mistakes in this whole the way we established it, but at least I want to begin to sort of bring in all the important elements, and we can figure the rest out a little bit later. So I feel like the main gradient in the background still isn't quite what I want, so I'll go back here to the top and just see if I can improve that a little bit. For sure this is a little bit too soft, so you could try to use this here as well and just work on the positioning a little bit. And I think we need to make this color a little bit darker. Give it maybe a little bit of a blue tint as well. And yeah, maybe linear will be a little bit better after all. It's a bit difficult really to get the gradient right. We definitely don't want this hard line in here, So probably should move this down further. So yeah, that looks nice. I'm actually not sure what these settings do. I just know that they affect sort of the gradient between these points. So maybe one of you knows more about them. But basically I go by looks, and if it looks alright with these parameters, then it should be fine. Alright, this is a little bit better. Looks a bit deeper now. And finally, I think we need to work a little bit on the gradient inside now, because that also looks a bit boring after what we did, and I think I want to reuse this color here. Also, it is already very dark, it's just not the right position. Let's see if we can maybe reuse the settings here a little bit, and that looks a little bit nicer. Alright, finally, I think we should give it a little bit of a highlight on top. So let's copy this one more time. We'll plug this into the first node as usual, and we will this time take some new coordinates for the second, and this will of course be added onto everything at the very end. Right, so here we don't need this, and this is where our outlines should go. So this just needs to be plugged in there. And now we just adjust sort of the position of where we want our highlight to be. We can make it smaller, like so. Just move it to the right position. And so a second highlight would look very nice in this situation. So it's very simply going to be just a copy of this. And a color mix RGB add node with which we just put that on top. And for this we just, move it slightly to a different position. And of course we also need to set that to the factor to 1, so that's at full opacity. And I would like to make this a little bit smaller, as it is also in the reference. Now finally, the depth is still at the same level as the eye, and I think we kind of want the opposite. We want this to sort of go out rather than in, and with this setting we can now do that very easily. So now it looks like it's sort of hovering over everything else. Maybe we just make it a little bit weaker. Yeah, more or less that's going to be it. So we definitely have still some polish to do here, and I definitely have to figure out what's wrong with sort of my vectors here in the front. This still didn't seem like it worked out well for us. Yeah, the basic setup of this is looking very good so far, and the remaining details I'll fix as we go. So let me just make this a little bit bigger for a last good look at it. One more thing, I'm not sure if I like the dark areas here. I kind of created them when I was painting the textures, but that's also something I might want to change. But otherwise, I think everything looks very nice. I hope you like it too. And in the next part we'll just do some more finishing touches. I mean, we still haven't really looked at the eye lines, the eyebrows, the mouth is also still very rough. A few things I want to fix with the texturing, some correction on the materials, and possibly still a little bit of rework on the hair, but I'm really not sure if I can do it at this point. Maybe I might just give up. Or I'll just do a few subdivisions and try to make it at least just a little bit smoother. So there are just a few things I might want to look into, but yeah, that's just a little bit of a preview at this point. Alright then, so I hope you enjoyed this all, and I'll see you next time.